Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, as promised, we are going to take a look at a couple of comets. So we're here on the 3rd of April, which is just a little before Comet 2026 A1 MAPS, and MAPS is the name of the telescope or telescope system that discovered this comet. This comet was, of course, discovered right at the beginning of 2026. We can tell by the A1. This comet is coming up to its perihelion, and its perihelion is going to place it between us and the sun. So that's where we're seeing it here. In fact, it would be transiting in front of the sun at this point. By moving through a little bit of time here, we can see it on either side of the sun, because this comet is going around the sun. It is going to be very, very close to the sun as it goes around. So we can see down here, its distance from the sun is just 0.019 of an AU, so quite low, and its distance from the Earth is just under an AU, and that is part of what indicates that it is between us and the sun. It's just under an AU, so we can see it making that change there, going from behind the sun to in front of the sun as we move through time. So it will be in front of the sun after this little maneuver, but we can see that it is also incredibly bright there, and as we move back through time it gets much fainter. So from being next to the sun, almost in front of the sun here, with a brightness of up to 7 when it's just coming around the edge of the sun here, a magnitude of -7 almost. I'm sure I saw it go up to 7, there we go. A magnitude of -7 just as it's coming around the sun. This is when it would be at its most illuminated, its best possible view from here on Earth. We can see that even a day either side of the perihelion, its magnitude has dropped down to just 5, so it's gotten much fainter, and it's still not that far from the sun, so that is going to put it in a more difficult position to see. So of course comets are not making their own light, they can only reflect the light of the sun. We can see here as we move the comet into a more visible position where it won't be blocked out by the sun's glow, and I think it still will be here. Waiting for this comet to get further away from the sun is going to cause its brightness, its magnitude to go down. So that puts that comet in a very difficult position for us to see here in Ireland. But when it's close to the sun, it will be incredibly bright when it's passing its closest to the sun. This comet should be visible while the sun is setting from lower latitudes, very similar to the conjunctions of the planets that we took a look at in the last video. So we'll very quickly jump down to closer to the equator, and we'll try and find that comet again. We've gone back to the day that it is closest to the sun, so we'll bring the sun back up over the horizon and we'll move it out just a little bit, just by a couple of days. We'll get the sun under the horizon and we'll see, still not quite dark enough. So this comet is going to be very difficult to see. By the time it's far enough from the sun to be out in darkness, it's going to be quite faint. So we can see that here, even by almost the middle of April, it's down to almost magnitude 13, might as well be magnitude 13 thanks to the air masses. So this comet is going to be a very difficult one to see, but it is going to be very bright just as it comes next to the sun. So for satellites that are observing the sun, it's going to be in view and it will be imaged by those satellites. Even though the satellites that are looking at the sun, their mission really is to study the sun. But these comets that go very close to the sun, they kind of get caught in the field of view. They get seen as well, even if they're not the target of observation. So that comet isn't the only comet that's going to be making its close approach to the sun in April. C2025 R3 is a comet that was discovered. It's a comet that doesn't seem to be known by Stellarium, so that's okay, we will be able to add it in. But this comet was discovered, of course, later in 2025, R3, that tells us the half month, that it was the 3rd comet discovered in that half month. We will go into the solar system editor and we will import an orbital element by searching for it online, and we'll make sure that we spell everything correctly, because it needs to be correct for this system to find it. We're looking for, 2025 R3 PANSTARRS. So PANSTARRS again is the name of the telescope system, but it is the name of the non-human system that was used by humans to discover this comet. And there it is. So this comet is going to be making its closest approach to the sun later in the month. So here we are, coming up on the 24th by the looks of it. So we will bring ourselves back to daytime, we'll get rid of the atmosphere, and we'll take a closer look. So this comet, we're seeing it even here, it's not as bright, and this one is non-periodic. We can see here that it is passing, it is between us and the sun because it's closer to us than 1 AU, which is the distance between us and the sun. It's actually a little bit further from the sun than it is to us, so it's closer to us than it is to the sun when it's at its closest. And yes, this almost half an AU is roughly how far away it will be. So this comet isn't going to look as bright, it's not getting lit up as much by the sun, but its brightness should be a little bit higher when it's between us and the sun. It should brighten up a little bit because of light bouncing around its surface and getting diffused by the ice that it has around it, but diffused by its coma. But here it is. It's not going to be a particularly bright comet, but we can see that it stays a little bit brighter while it gets further from the sun. So hopefully this is a comet that we may have a slightly better chance of seeing. But again, because of the angle at which we are seeing things at the moment, well, this comet looks to be south of the sun from our perspective, so that's going to make it even more difficult to see. As it gets further away from the sun, it will almost seem to follow the horizon, which means it will stay setting with the sun. So this is a comet that looks like it will be best seen from the southern hemisphere. So that's where we will go to take a look at it. Despite the fact that it's not going to be visible really from the northern hemisphere, this comet, Comet 2025, R3 PANSTARRS, is going to be, by the looks of it, a little bit brighter when it's further from the sun than the Comet C2026A1 maps, which we're also not going to have a particularly good view of from here in the northern hemisphere. So it looks like both of these comets are going to be primarily southern hemisphere comets, and we'll just grab back the comet again instead of a star, or the Crab Nebula. So here we go, looking back at the comet. We'll still move it a little away from the sun so that it's not too close, but we can see here that it is much more visible. I want to see if it is above the horizon while it's still a reasonable magnitude and the sky isn't too bright. Looks like the sky's a little too bright there. We'll move a little further ahead because 8th magnitude is still pretty achievable, reduced to 9 because of how close it is to the horizon, but should be achievable with a telescope or a good pair of binoculars. So that is Comet C2025 R3 PANSTARRS and Comet C2026 A1 maps. Those are the main comets that are going to be getting close to the sun in April, but they're not the only comets that we're going to be able to see in April. Of course, there are various comets out there, and many of them are visible when they're quite far from the sun. If you have a powerful enough telescope, they're still technically out there, even if under most normal conditions it would be quite hard to see them. But there is another comet that is going through the sky around this time, but it does look like, yet again, it's not known by Stellarium. So instead we will add it in, although it is a better known comet than these recently discovered ones. It is a known periodical comet. The comet R3 PANSTARRS is a non-periodical comet, so it is going to get thrown out of the solar system as it passes around the sun. Once it passes around the sun, it's going to get accelerated out of the solar system entirely. So we're looking for 88P Howell. Here we go. Written the wrong way around, of course. P88 Howell. There we go. So a little bit tricky to find it, but that's Comet 88P Howell. And it's got its 2026 data, so that means its path will be accurate, should be accurate for this year. So here we go. Comet 88P Howell. It is there at 14th magnitude, so it is moving across the sky pretty slowly. we're after traveling pretty far into the future here as well, so we'll come back to April. So we can see it is closer to the sun there in April, but it's also at an angle that would make it very, very difficult to see for us here in Ireland. You can see that it's moving across the sky pretty slowly, and it is also not too close to us or the sun. It's almost twice as far from the sun, almost twice as far from us as we are from the sun. But we can see it as we come into April. It is reasonably far from the sun here in the morning. Again, not at a particularly good angle for us to see here in Ireland. Another comet that's going to be better seen from closer to the equator. So those are 3 comets, none of which are particularly easy to see or observable from here in Ireland, or at least not until we get pretty far into the future. Will these comets be above the horizon when the sky is dark enough for us to take a look at them? And of course, by then they'll also be quite faint, having travelled quite far from the sun. But those comets, 88P Howell, a periodic comet, C2025 R3 PANSTARRS, which is a non-periodic comet, it's going to leave our solar system and not come back, and C2026 A1 MAPS, which I do believe is a periodic comet. It just hasn't come around more than once. It's only just discovered. We haven't seen it go through its period. But all of those comets better seen from the equator, but at least we all know they're out there. So even if you don't get a chance to see them in the real sky, I hope you enjoyed seeing them here. If you did enjoy this video, then please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to read this information, you can do so on my website, queevinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.